Sego, everybody. Can you hear me good? So, Sego Zawagoego, Wandanolo Yunkiat, Danawagatuhuni. My original name is Ariana. My clan is Wolf. If you want to try out my name, feel free. But otherwise, you can call me Ariana. So, today I was asked to talk about this book. And this book, to me, resonated a lot with how we live at home, how we get together. Everything that we do as a family, everything that we kind of consider with our parties, our get-togethers. It's always the basis is, well, how many people are coming? And close family, it ranges to about 62 to 65 people, close family. So my father has 8 siblings, and we'll say each sibling has about 4 kids. And then those 4 kids have 3 to 4 kids themselves, so it gets up there pretty quick. So we all got to cook to accommodate that many people. But to start off, I want to touch on the tobacco. I know some people put the wanderings, but the cultural teachings as well. And the last one, and in this one. And the tobacco is a really sacred medicine to us. What that does, it's a tool for us to link ourselves to the Creator, but also hold on, I just want to figure this out. Okay, there we go. Not just the Creator, but to the plants themselves, the plants, the fish, the environment. And when we put that tobacco down, it's a sign of respect, but it's an offering. We're taking, but we're giving back. And that's what tobacco is grown for, is so that when we have a need for any type of medicine, any type of food, any type of material that we may need to sustain our lifestyles, we lay that down as a thanks. Because we don't just take and take and take, we need to give. There's that whole balance. So this whole book looks at the generosity not just of the people and sharing with the whole family, the food, but the generosity of the earth. They go fishing in the beginning in order to feed their family. I'm sure throughout the summer they had planted their gardens so that they could harvest that corn, so that they could harvest the necessary food to sustain them throughout a winter. And what this book kind of resonates with me is that it's a lifestyle based off of the land. And the land is something that we take for granted now. And looking at how the Dene conduct themselves, how the Mohawks conduct themselves. We need the land, not just for the food and the water and, a place to live, but culturally and traditionally. We have our language we have our language that's based on the land. So while we are out gardening, it's an opportunity for us to connect with a younger generation. So as a little girl, I would garden with my parents and with my grandparents. And what that offered was teachings I got from them and teachings that they had gotten from their grandparents and their parents a long time ago. And with that, the whole book emphasizes that strength in roots, that strength in having a family, that strength in knowing who's going to stand behind you and who's going to be there when you need them most. And as educators, that's one really important aspect that you teach to your students, is that it's not just about blood family. It's not just about the people that they have at home that they're living with that's counted as family. A teacher, with a book like this, a teacher should show that the people that they sit next to in their classrooms, that the person standing at the front of the room is going to be there to help them should they ever need it. And by doing so, you create an environment that shows them that family is not just about blood, but family is the people that you go to when you're in school, when you're away from home. So they have that connection and they have that that surety. So it's like you being there as teachers, you being there is like the steel that's ingrained into the spine of a generation. You're able to show them that kindness and that generosity as teachers, and they never forget that. But as educators, there's also another point that really needs to be considered and taken seriously, especially in today's world. Nobody really likes to listen. That's as simply as I can put it. Everybody hears what's going on around them. Everybody hears the chatter that's in the world around them. But everybody's listening in order to formulate those answers in response to what's being said to them, to what's being said around them, because they want to respond appropriately. They want to respond as strongly as they can. With students, and this is K through 12, it needs to be different. One needs to listen not to formulate an answer, but to actually feel what's being shared with you. To feel the story that's being shared and the teachings that a student may want to show you for themselves. Because as educators, you're all continuously learning. You're all learning something today. You'll all learn something tomorrow. When you go back to your students, a student can come up to you and show you something that, for some teachers in the 30 years that they've been teaching, they've never experienced or they've never heard of before. And by doing so, what you do for that child is you offer them the opportunity to feel that what they have to say is valid, that what they have to say is important. Otherwise, they grow up believing that what they have to say isn't necessary in their life. And what that sometimes creates is a defeatist mindset. And that's something that Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, children alike in today's world can't have, because there's so many issues that kind of need to be touched upon. So to show the kids that there is family in the friends that we keep, it shows them that it links to that generosity that the world has today as well. And by showing them that, they grow up knowing that wherever they go, they can build a home for themselves. They're able to realize that the ground that they walk on is the same ground that family walked upon, that the next destination in their journey is going to be a comfortable and safe place if they make it so, because of the teachings that educators instilled in them and the types of traits that they're able to grow up with. Growing up, it was difficult to go through my school system. We had teachers that didn't really take into consideration what the Indian kids wanted. And it became a sort of competition, especially with myself. The way I was raised, I sat at the table with my parents at dinner, and they would talk about the politics within our community, the politics within our confederacy. So I was growing up knowing that political fight that generations before me had also fought, and that I was destined to fight. So in school, anytime something came up, a teacher was quick to say, well, where did you learn that? Who told you that? How do you know that's true? Well, it's not in the textbook, so I'm not really going to entertain that. And it was kind of like, okay, like, you're the teacher, so you must be right. And that kind of shut me off. I didn't want to participate in any discussions. I didn't want to do any of that because I felt that what I had to say wasn't valid, that what I had to say didn't mean anything because she didn't think it was right. Only later on did I realize how complacency had embedded itself into the teachers that surrounded me, and learning something new like that kind of put them on edge. And I totally understand that. I'm not sure how many people in this room today are new to the topic of Indigenous culture and how things are turning today. Could I just see a show of hands? Like, if you've had exposure to Indigenous culture, Indigenous material. So you all know that it's like an oral tradition, correct? And that's the way I was raised. Sitting at the table, sitting around a campfire, you're at a dinner and you're sitting in the living room, everybody's talking about something. And in my family, it was always political. So what this story shows is that getting together, that getting family, whether it's distant, whether it's close, is showing that connection between generations and generations. And that I'm not sure what you would call it. I guess the terms that are placed on us. Earlier, not sure how many caught it, I did use the term Indian. And I'll use the term Indian because that's what we are. We were branded as Indians some time ago by a man that had made a mistake in his mapping, we'll say. So he ended up here. We were branded Indians. And the term Indians was used to diminish us, to put us down, to not have us rise up to the full capability that our identities provide for us. Well, now, for me, and I will put this disclaimer out now, what I say is my personal story and what I've learned. I do not whatsoever speak on behalf of all the Mohawk people in our confederacy. I will not stand to do that. This is what I have learned from my grandparents. This is what I've learned from my mother and my father. And this is what I stand to share with you. What you can take back to your classrooms and share with your students. So the term Indian, again, used to diminish the identity that we had a long time ago, is now being rebranded and being used to bring forth a new generation of fighters, we'll say. We're using it as our own, and we're using it to rise up, to reclaim that lost identity. because there are a lot of Indigenous students within Canada that have lost an identity and that can't find it because of the stigma around certain terms, around certain actions. So then it becomes a place of, well, where do I belong? Who do I belong to? Who can I go to? Because of the that mindset. So I want to say I kind of like touched on a lot of stuff, but this book, as educators, gives you an insight into what it is to share with our family, not just blood family, but family that we've chosen. We have people back home that come into the arenas that we book to hold all of my family, and it's like, if you haven't eaten, then you eat when you're with us. Nothing goes to waste. We can't let anything go to waste. We've been raised by a society that, unfortunately had residential schools. And so that mindset that nothing can go to waste, you eat everything on your plate, you make sure that nothing is thrown out, because there are kids that don't have that. We're raised by people that went through that and that don't want to see the younger generation go hungry, so we do that. And because of that, we do cook accordingly. They went fishing in a family cookout. They made sure that everybody had at least one piece of fish, if not two. They made sure that the grandmother made enough bannock to feed all the kids, all the adults, and maybe still have some left for them to bring home. I do want to say that's it. Thank you for listening.